It was a late Saturday evening when Jason, a 17-year-old high school student, walked down the main street of his small town. He had just finished a long week of school and was looking forward to spending the evening in peace, walking to the local diner to grab a burger. Jason was a quiet, reserved teenager, often keeping to himself. However, his confidence had been growing lately, and he was learning how to stand up for himself in tough situations. As he passed by the old bar on the corner, a group of bikers, notorious for their loud engines and rough behavior, were gathered outside. The sound of their motorcycles idling and their loud laughter echoed into the night. Jason had always been wary of the bikers, who were known for causing trouble around town. He kept his head down, hoping they wouldn't notice him. But as fate would have it, one of the bikers, a tall man with a leather vest adorned with patches, spotted Jason. His eyes narrowed, and he leaned against his bike, blocking Jason's path. The biker grinned, a look of superiority on his face. "Hey, kid," the biker said, his voice rough. "Where do you think you're going? You don't belong here." Jason froze for a moment, a wave of unease washing over him. He had heard stories about these bikers, but this was the first time one had singled him out. He knew he could keep walking, but something inside him told him not to back down. He stood his ground, looking the biker in the eye, trying to suppress the rising anxiety in his chest. The biker smirked, stepping closer, clearly trying to intimidate him. "What's your name, huh? Don't tell me you're too good to talk to me." Jason's heart raced, but he took a deep breath. This was the moment to either walk away in fear or to stand up and face the situation. He straightened his shoulders and spoke, his voice steadier than he felt. "Jason," he said, his eyes not leaving the bikers. "And I'm not scared of you." The biker's grin widened, but there was a flicker of something in his eyes, perhaps curiosity or surprise. Whatever it was, it only made the situation feel even more tense. "You're not scared, huh?" the biker scoffed, clearly testing him. "Let's see how tough you are when we have a little chat." He took a step forward, his friends watching closely from the bar's doorway. Jason could feel the eyes of the bikers on him, waiting for him to make his move. Jason knew that this was no ordinary encounter. It was more than just a random act of bullying. It was about pride, respect, and standing up for what was right. But how would he handle the situation? Would he back down? Or would he do something that no one, not even the bikers, expected? The biker's footsteps were heavy as he advanced toward Jason, his leather boots pounding the pavement. The tension in the air thickened, as though every sound, every breath, was amplified. Jason could hear the muffled laughter of the other bikers, their jeers hanging in the background like a constant reminder that he was outnumbered. But he wasn't going to let fear control him. Jason stood his ground, his hands clenched into fists at his sides. He wasn't about to let this man or his friends intimidate him any longer. They were trying to break him, to test his resolve, but Jason had learned something important in the last few months. Sometimes standing up for yourself didn't require violence. It required strength of character and the courage to face your fears head-on. "Listen," Jason said, his voice low but firm. "I don't want any trouble. I'm just trying to get to the diner." The biker scoffed, clearly uninterested in reasoning. "Trouble? You're already in trouble, kid. You think you can walk around here like you own the place." Jason took a slow breath, keeping his voice steady. "I'm not trying to own anything. I'm just trying to get by without anyone harassing me for no reason." For a moment, the biker didn't speak. He stared at Jason, as if assessing him. It was clear that he hadn't expected the teen to respond with such calm defiance. The other bikers seemed to notice the shift in atmosphere, their murmurs growing quieter. One of them, tall, burly, with a beard that looked like it had never been shaved, leaned against the doorframe of the bar, clearly amused. "What's the kid gonna do?" he muttered to his friend, but Jason caught the words. The biker in front of Jason seemed to realize that his usual intimidation tactics weren't working. He grinned wider, trying to push Jason's buttons. "You really think you're something special, huh? You think you're better than me?" He took another step closer, his breath smelling of alcohol and cigarettes. "Let me show you what happens when you talk back." The crowd of bikers watched, waiting for something to unfold. Jason could feel the pressure building, his heartbeat drumming in his chest. He knew that if he showed any weakness now, it would be over. But if he stood firm, there was a chance, just a chance, that he could make a statement that would change everything. Taking a deep breath, Jason locked eyes with the biker. "I don't think I'm better than you, but I do think I deserve respect. Just like you." The biker's eyes narrowed, and he sneered. "Respect, huh? You've got a lot to learn, kid. You think anyone cares about you or your little respect?" Jason took a half step back, feeling the weight of the crowd behind him. His mind raced, but then something clicked. This wasn't just about him anymore. This was about standing up for anyone who had ever been pushed around, overlooked, or silenced. And Jason wasn't going to be that person anymore. He squared his shoulders and took another deep breath. "Maybe not, but I'm not the one who's going to let people like you get away with bullying others. So, if you're looking for trouble, I guess you'll have to find someone else. Because I'm done being afraid." For a moment, there was complete silence. The bikers, who were used to having the upper hand, weren't sure how to react. They had expected fear, submission. But Jason hadn't given them that. Instead, he'd given them defiance, and that was something they weren't used to facing. The biker in front of him hesitated. Then slowly he spoke. "You've got guts, kid. I'll give you that. But let's see how long they last." Jason held his ground, refusing to back down. And in that moment, something changed. It wasn't just the biker in front of him. It was the crowd behind them. They were all watching, waiting for something to happen. Would Jason cave? Or would he take control of the situation? The biker grunted, stepping back slightly, sizing Jason up one last time. The air was thick with tension, but Jason wasn't backing down. The crowd of bikers looked at each other, unsure whether to laugh or respect the kid who had stood up to them without a second thought. Then, as if by some unspoken agreement, the biker finally spoke again. "You've got spirit, I'll give you that. But this isn't over." Jason didn't flinch. "It's over when you realize you don't control me, or anyone else." The biker paused for a second. Then, as if seeing Jason in a new light, he gave a grunt of acknowledgement. "We'll see, kid. We'll see." As the biker and his friends slowly began to walk back toward the bar, Jason stood tall, his heart racing but his resolve unshaken. He had just taken a stand, not just for himself, but for anyone who had ever been made to feel small. But Jason knew this wasn't the end. There would be more challenges, more moments when he'd have to prove himself again. And the next time, he'd be ready. As Jason turned to continue his walk to the diner, his mind was racing. He couldn't believe how he had handled the situation. His heart was still pounding, but there was a sense of pride that filled him from the inside out. He had stood up to a group of intimidating bikers without backing down. But as he walked away, he could feel the weight of their stares on his back, knowing that his actions had left an impression on them. Jason reached the diner, his usual quiet sanctuary where he could unwind and relax. He slid into a booth by the window, trying to calm his nerves and process everything that had just happened. He ordered a burger and fries, the comfort of food helping to settle his thoughts. Just as he was taking a bite, the door to the diner opened, and the sound of motorcycle engines revving outside made him glance up. To his surprise, it wasn't the group of bikers. Instead, it was a single figure, one of the men from the group, walking through the door. It was the tall biker who had confronted him earlier. Jason froze for a moment, unsure of what to expect. Was he here to finish what he had started? The biker looked around the diner, his eyes briefly scanning the room. When his gaze landed on Jason, he made a beeline for the booth. Jason's heart skipped a beat, and he instinctively stiffened, ready for anything. But the biker didn't approach with aggression. Instead, he sat down across from Jason with a heavy sigh, removing his leather jacket and draping it over the back of the seat. "Can I sit?" he asked, his voice gruff but not hostile. Jason hesitated for a moment before nodding. "Sure," he said, keeping his guard up. He wasn't sure if this was some sort of game or if the biker was planning something. But he wasn't about to show fear. The biker studied him for a moment, his expression softening. "I've been thinking about what happened earlier," he began. "And I gotta be honest, I didn't expect you to stand up like that. Most kids your age would have backed down or run off." Jason didn't respond right away. He had expected to hear some sort of apology, or maybe a threat. But this was different. "I've been doing this for years," the biker continued, his voice quieter now. "And most people just let us push them around. It's easier that way. But you," he paused, scratching his beard thoughtfully. "You didn't flinch. You didn't let me intimidate you." Jason's mind was spinning. Was this some sort of trick? He couldn't tell. The biker was a stranger, and his motives were still unclear. "So, what do you want?" Jason asked cautiously. "Why are you here?" The biker gave him a hard look, but there was something different about it now. Respect, maybe. "I came to tell you I was wrong. About you, about how I treated you." He shifted uncomfortably in his seat. "I've been the guy who thinks he has to push people down to feel bigger, but I'm starting to realize that's not really the way to live." Jason couldn't believe his ears. Was this guy actually admitting he was wrong? "I've got a lot of pride," the biker went on, his voice quieter. "And sometimes that makes me do stupid things. But I wanted to know, I don't take back what I said earlier. But I do respect you. You've got guts, kid. And that's something I don't come across every day." Jason wasn't sure what to say. He had never expected an apology or some kind of recognition from someone like this. But there it was. The biker, the one who had tried to intimidate him just an hour ago, was sitting across from him, admitting his own weaknesses. "I don't know if I can change everything I've done," the biker continued. "But you made me think twice. And that's not something that happens often." He gave a small, almost apologetic smile. "I hope you can see this as me trying to make things right." For the first time, Jason felt a shift in the air. It wasn't fear or tension anymore. It was something more complex, a strange kind of understanding. He could tell that the biker was genuine. Maybe this wasn't some grand gesture of redemption, but it was a step forward. And in that moment, that was enough. "I guess I can respect that," Jason said, his voice steady but kind. "We all mess up. But the important thing is trying to do better, right?" The biker nodded, his eyes softening. "Yeah, exactly." They sat in silence for a few moments, the atmosphere now completely different from the confrontation earlier. Jason realized that this was the true power of standing up for yourself. Not only did he protect his own dignity, but he had also sparked a change in someone else. Maybe that was all it took to break the cycle of bullying and intimidation. Not a fight, but a moment of honesty, of recognizing each other's humanity. As the biker stood up to leave, he glanced back at Jason. "Take care of yourself, kid. You've earned my respect." Jason nodded, feeling the weight of the encounter settle into something lighter, something more hopeful. The bikers might have been tough, but it was his strength, his ability to stand firm, that had made the real difference. And as the biker walked out of the diner and disappeared into the night, Jason felt a sense of peace he hadn't expected. Sometimes, the most unexpected encounters could lead to the greatest lessons.